Welcome to G-Man Gaming and Reviews. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to make caps fast in Fallout 4. If you're looking to maximize your profits early in the game and keep your wallet full, you've come to the right place. From trading to scrapping and selling, we'll cover the best strategies to make those caps flow in the wasteland. Let's dive in. Alright, so the first one that we're going to talk about is the most obvious, which is selling the loot and weapons and armor that you find to vendors. Now, early on, you're not going to have vendors in your settlement, but there are a couple of things that you can do. The first thing is to get vendors to come to your settlement. Now, specifically dealing with Sanctuary, Trash Can Carla will show up periodically. She's a vendor that you can sell to. But if you go into resources and you go to miscellaneous and you go to trade caravan post, you can actually put one of these down and other vendors from Bunker Hill, which I'll talk about later, will show up here, which will give you additional places to sell to. Early vendors that you will find, there's a vendor at Rachel Abernathy, I think her name is, at Abernathy Farm. She's wearing the green jumpsuit, so she's a vendor, you can sell to her. We've also got two vendors available here at Drumlin Diner if you are able to solve the conflict charismatically with the two of them. There's one vendor who's a chems vendor, and then there's another one who's a general items vendor. And then we have the vendors at Diamond City Market, Good Neighbor, and Bunker Hill. These are the vendors that you'll have access to early on before you've actually been able to establish vendors at your own settlement. Like I said, you can trade weapons, armor, and junk to these vendors to make money. So early on, you're probably not going to be using that much in terms of rare crafting materials. You might want to sell a lot of these crafting materials that you have early on, because a lot of them you will not be using. But later on, when you actually start building your settlement, you will probably want a lot of these extra materials. But like I said, early on, selling looted goods to vendors is a great way of getting extra caps. The next one is to sell valuable weapons and armor. Things like harpoon guns, miniguns, missile launchers, in other words, weapons that you're not using. These can sell for quite a bit. Fat Mans as well. Now, keep in mind, you can give these weapons to your settlers, but I wouldn't give any missile launchers or Fat Mans to your settlers because they will blow up your own settlement if you do that. But selling like valuable weapons and armor can be very useful. So if we go to the armor here, stuff that's got a lot of mods, as you can see here, sells for quite a bit. So this arm here is 216 gold, which is very good. So yeah, so that's another way that you can make money early on. So like I said, you want to sell rare or high value weapons and armor, especially unique items. Specialized vendors in places like Diamond City, Good Neighbor, and Bunker Hill will give you the best prices. And you want to look for valuable gear like laser weapons, power armor parts, and unique weapons that fetch higher prices. Especially with unique weapons, if you're not using them because they don't fit into your build, you might as well sell them off. There's literally no point in just having a weapon sitting in your inventory. The next one that we're going to talk about is scavenging, scrapping, and crafting. In relation to scavenging, if you have settlers that aren't doing anything, what you can do is if you go into the resource section and you go to miscellaneous, you can assign them to scavenging stations. These will give you extra materials, so that's very useful. The next thing that you could do is craft items to sell. So good things to craft are chems, in particular jet. If you go to a chemistry station and you go to the chems section, you'll see here that if you have fertilizer and plastic, you can make jet. And jet sells for quite a bit and it has a very low weight. So that's one thing that you can do to get more stuff. You can also make Molotov cocktails early on, don't require a lot of materials. You can make baseball grenades, fragmentation grenades in order to sell. So that's something to keep in mind. That's another thing. The good thing about manufacturing grenades is that they only require very low weight, which also makes them useful. Now, the one really good thing about this game is, unlike other Fallout games, you don't really need to invest that much in order to get access to building things. Molotov cocktails don't require any skills in order to make, whereas baseball grenades requires a demolition skill of 1, fragmentation grenades requires a demolition skill of 2, but Molotov cocktails don't require a demolition skill of anything. So if you got all this glass, cloth, and adhesive, you might as well. They sell for quite a bit as well. So those are some of the things that you can do. Also, mines as well sell for quite a bit. So that's another thing that you can use in order to have items to sell. So another couple of things we're going to couple is buy low, sell high. So take advantage of cheaper items at vendors, especially Diamond City, Goodneighbor, and Bunker Hill. Purchase weapons and armor and resources at a lower price and sell them to other vendors at a higher price for profit. This obviously will require you to keep an eye on the prices for certain items, but it can be something useful, especially if you're buying items in bulk. The next thing that we're going to talk about is barter and negotiating with vendors. So if you improve your charisma and you get your skill in Caps Collector, this will actually affect your ability to buy and sell and get better prices from vendors. So the Cap Collector's perk allows you to negotiate better deals, making it easier to make profit, and the charisma stat will reduce the cost of items and increase the sale price of your goods. Another thing to keep in mind there is which I don't have here, on the eastern side of the map, there is a location where you can get the Barber Bobblehead to boost charisma and maximize your profits. You can find it at Longneck's Lukowski's Cannery in the Commonwealth. So that's something to keep in mind as well. It's on the far eastern side of the map. The next thing that you can do is buy materials and resources for crafting mods. So to give you an example, let's pick a weapon. I will take this one. Cool. So what you can do is you can purchase crafting materials like steel, adhesive, and aluminium from vendors in Diamond City, Goodneighbor, and Bunker Hill, and use these materials to craft mods and weapons for armor that can be sold for a higher price. So what you can do is go to your crafting station and craft like a mod for your armor and then replace it with standard, and then you can actually sell the mod for quite a bit. As you can see here, mods actually sell for quite a bit, so that's something to keep in mind. You can also you can more often do this with weapons as well. So if I go into my weapons category and I go into the plasma pistol, if I create an overcharged capacitor and then I replace it with the standard capacitor, I can sell that mod. That can be another way of actually getting money, selling mods, especially mods that you're not using. So if you've replaced a mod with another better mod, you might as well sell the old mod. Mods are very useful for generating caps. You can also use these to craft, if you've got a lot of materials, to add extra mods to weapons you're going to sell. That can be very useful as well. Now, the next thing that you can do is set up trade routes between your settlements to gather resources for crafting and selling. And if you unlock the local leader perk and build supply lines between your settlements, you can get a steady flow of items and material, allowing you to create and sell valuable goods. So if I hit C, you'll see that all of these settlements are connected via supply lines, and what this means is any materials that are stored in the workshops for any of these settlements can be used at any other. So it's a great way of getting your hands onto more materials. You do need to have a charisma of 6 to get this. You just need a first rank in local leader to get this, so that can be very useful. But yeah, trade routes are really useful for having extra materials. Oh, one thing that I didn't talk about was setting up stores. One of the advantages of getting your charisma up to 6 is it allows you to build stores once you get to level 14, which is really useful because stores generate a passive income but they also give you places to sell your loot, which is very useful. The other thing is that you want to use your settlements to, this is like a bonus point, use your settlements to generate more income. So you can build water purifiers at locations that have water, and then power those and use them to get a whole bunch of water, which you can sell. If you have cages, you can actually use large cages to trap Brahmin. Brahmin at a settlement will generate fertilizer. There's no point in having more than 3 or 4 of them. Any more than that, they won't generate any extra fertilizer. Fertilizer is useful for making jet, which is a chem that I was talking about before, and for making grenades. So those are other materials that you can use to get your hands onto caps fast. The other thing is farming. Making corn, mutfruit, and tato farms are really useful, because not only can you sell these goods, these crops, you can also use them to manufacture adhesive. So if we go into the crafting station, we go into utility, you'll see here that I can manufacture adhesive with corn, mutfruit, purified water, and tato. So it'd be very useful. The other good thing about that I was talking about stores is that stores will generate a passive income that you can collect in the workshops. One thing to keep in mind is that if you have stores at multiple locations, you won't see all the caps in the workshop of one particular settlement, but you still can use those additional credits in order to build things, like to create more stores. So that's something else to keep in mind. Okay, so with these strategies in hand, you're all set to make caps fast in Fallout 4. Whether it's selling looted goods, taking advantage of vendor deals, or crafting high value items, you'll be rolling in caps in no time. Don't forget to comment and subscribe for more Fallout tips and tricks. See you in the wasteland.